Hello everyone, welcome. This week's exercise is going to be interesting, I think. I have this page over here, and this is what we're going to do. This is what our page is going to look like in the end. And what we want to do is create these cards. That's the point, card effect, where when you hover over the card, it kind of highlights the card that you're selecting a little bit. Right? You can see it in the shadow there of the card. Very easy to do. And of course I have my title over here. All right. I'm going to do it on soccer players, but you can do it on anything you like. Okay. If you like basketball better, you can do it on basketball, or you can do it on movies or whatever you like. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to need probably is to find 3 images that you're going to use. In this case, I looked for an image of Messi, one of Cristiano Ronaldo, and one of Neymar. And to do that, just go to Google and search what you want to look for. Now, I recommend that you get maybe 3 images that look kind of square. Okay, like this one. This one looks a little bit square. This one, maybe not so much. It's a little bit too long. This one is a little bit square, which works, right? So look for something that is square, because it's going to look better. This one's great. Look, it's almost square right there. So look for something square, and that's going to look better when you put it in your page. All right. So let's get started over here in brackets then. I have my 2 files, my players tut.html and players tut.css. So I'm going to write my CSS over on this side and my HTML on this side. So let me get started with doc type. Sorry guys. Doc type HTML, right? There we go. Then I'm going to open the HTML tag, right? Inside I'm going to have my head tag, and inside I'm going to add the title, and this is going to be world class players. All right. Also, I'm going to write the link, rel style sheet href, and I'm going to make it so that it's players tut.css, which is the CSS file that I'm going to be writing right here. All right. So my head is done, and now I'm going to write body. And I'm ready to start creating my content. Okay. First, the title. So I'm going to create a div with class title. Okay. Or let's call it heading. You know, it doesn't matter what we call the class as long as we remember it. I don't want to call it title because title is already like a used tag or a used keyword, so let's call it heading. And inside that heading I'm going to write world class players. Maybe I'm even going to do it inside an h1 so that it's a title, you know. So let me world class players and then finish my h1. There you go. So I'm wrapping world class players inside an h1 because it's going to make it a heading of the largest type. So let's go see in my HTML file, and I have to save it. Forgot to save it. Okay, let's see in my HTML file, and I should already have world class players there. So that's good. Now let's create the card. It's a new div, right? Class card. And inside that card, I'm going to have the image. First, I'm going to create the image tag, source, and I'm going to put Messi's picture there. And I already have it in my file. So brackets already gives me a list of the images I have there in my folder, so I don't have to do anything. I'm going to also put the alt attribute, and I'm going to call this Messi. The alt displays this text just in case the image is not available for any reason. So close the image tag, which is done like this, right? And I should be able to see the image now if I save it. Always save, forget to save. If I reload the page, it's world class player and the image of Messi already. Below that image, I'm going to write kind of like his name. So I'm going to create another div in right now, right? Div, and I'm going to give it a class of info. And inside that div, I'm going to write maybe an h4, which is a heading, and I'm going to give it the name Messi, right? And maybe the position, so a P, a paragraph for the position. He's a forward. And I'm going to also write maybe an emphasis M for the club. So this is Barcelona FC. There we go. If I save that, I can go and reload my page to see what it looks like. So there we go. Now we want to style it. We have the info. We could let's style this one, and then we can copy sort of this card and kind of duplicate it different times to have the different cards for different players. But once we style the first, we can just copy paste and have many, right? So let's move over to the CSS now, and first I'm going to change the font of everything. So I'm going to say body and font family, right? Font family. I'm going to make it Arial or sans serif, whichever of the two. If Arial is not present, then any font with a sans serif with no decoration will be the default font. Let me save that now. Save it, and let's go and reload. And the font already changed, and that's what I wanted to do. So let's go back, and now let's style maybe the card. So dot card, because it's the class card, I'm going to make it so that it is the width. I'm going to make the width. I'm going to use the attribute max width. There we go. I'm going to make it 300 pixels. All right. Sorry. Close the sentence. I always forget to close the sentence. I'm going to float left, so that it sticks to the left side of the page, let's say, and I'm going to give it a margin, and the margin is the space between the edge and the card, let's say, right? So a margin, maybe let's give it 20 pixels, okay? Let's save that right now and go to see what the effect is in the, so at least we can see the margin. We can't see the size because the image is just taking over, but we're gonna see the size of the image when we focus on the image. All right. For now, then, let's go to the image. Dot card image, right? The image inside card. And let's give it a width and height setting. So width, let's give it 300 pixels. And let's give it a height, because I want it to look square. So height of also 300 pixels. All right. Let's save that. Let's go to the file and reload. And you can see now how a square image would look better, because now it's 300 by 300, but it kind of shrunk a little bit. It's a little bit warped, right? But it's starting to look right. Okay. It's starting to look like the card I want it to look like. Okay, let's go back to the card now and let's give it that shadow effect. So the property is called box shadow right there. And it takes 5 parameters. The position of the shadows in different areas. I'm going to enter the values right now. 4 pixels, 8 pixels, 0, and then I have to enter the color of the shadow. But if I just leave it like that, you're going to see that when I take a look at it and reload, I already have that shadow, you see? And you can experiment a little with the numbers and see what happens when you change some of those numbers. So for example, this 0, let's make it 10, you know, save, save. Let's go and reload, and it made my shadow disappear, right? So that number really doesn't do anything, but let's make this one 10, and let's go see reload, and again, it disappeared. So what do the numbers actually mean, right? Well, if we look at, and this is a new thing for you, I'm going to ask you, if you ever have a question about a property, there is a website that I use, that I recommend that you use, which is called W3 Schools, okay? W3 Schools is a reference for everything HTML. So if you ever need to know anything about a property, you can just search for the property box shadow. It'll give you CSS 3 box shadow property. There you go. And it'll give you some explanation of what it actually is, right? What it does and how it is used. The syntax, it says box shadow. H shadow, horizontal, vertical. So these are values for horizontal, vertical, blur, and spread, and color. Those are the things that we need to enter. Okay, horizontal shadow, vertical shadow, how much blur, and what is the spread. Okay. And spread means the size of the shadow. Negative values are allowed, it says. The blur distance, that's the blur, okay? So let's go back and test it out now. The reason why it's not working when I say 10, okay, is because I have to specify px, okay, so pixels. Let's save that, and now we have 10 pixels, 4 pixels, that's vertical, horizontal, vertical, blur, and spread. Let's make it pixels also. So let's save and let's go see what that looks like. Whoa! You can see now. Horizontal, 10 pixels, vertical, spread, and blur. Blur and spread. You can play around with those numbers all you want now that you know what the box shadow does, but we're going to set it so that it's 0 horizontal, 4 vertical, 8 blur, and 0 spread. but we haven't done the color yet. So let's save it. Sorry. And let's reload. And that's what it looks like now. You can see that there's the spread, the blur, it's only vertical, so you can only see it at the bottom, right? You can see it a little bit on the sides, and that's what it looks like. If you want a more accentuated shadow, maybe we can make it instead of 4, maybe 8. Let's see what 8 looks like, right? There. I don't know. I don't like it that much. But if you like it, that's great. I think it's too much. So let me go back to 4. Just a subtle shadow. And now we're going to set the color. The color, we're going to use a new way of setting color, which is a value called RGBA. RGBA stands for red, green, blue, alpha, which is the transparency. All right, alpha is the transparency. So this one takes 4 numbers separated by commas. If I do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, red, green, blue, that means 0 red, 0 green, 0 blue. That means it's going to be black, right? And 0.4 alpha. That means that it's going to be somewhat transparent, almost half transparent, right? Let me save that, okay? And let's go back and reload. And you can see now it's a very subtle shadow. We can change some of the values here. For instance, these values go from 0 to 255. So if I make it red, green, blue, which is 255, and semi-transparent is going to be a blue shadow, right? So let me save that and go back, reload, and now you can see a little hint of blue. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it 8, and let's make it completely opaque, so no transparency, just 1. All right, that means completely visible. If I save that and go back and reload, I can see it completely. It's blue, right? I like the blue shadow. Let's leave the blue shadow. So going back, I'm going to leave it at 255, but I'm going to make it a little bit less accentuated. So 0.4 again, and I'm going to make it not so thick. I'm going to also make it 4. All right, so that's going to be my shadow. There we go. So you can see a hint of blue around the card, right? And you can see the difference. All right. Now, for the info, which is the name forward Barcelona, I'm also going to have some styling. So .info, class info, I'm going to open the bracket and I'm going to say, give it some padding. Padding maybe 10 pixels left to right, and maybe 16 pixels up and down. Maybe, let's see. And maybe, well, let's see what that looks like. Save it. Let's go to the page and reload. And it just gave me some space between the edge and the text. You can see that, right? I think I like it. I just wonder if I can maybe give it (10-10). Let's see what that looks like. Save it. Sorry. Okay, so left and right. I think 16 was fine. 16 was fine, but I'm gonna give it a little bit less here, maybe 5. Let's see. 5 up and down, let's see. That looks fine. That looks fine. That looks nice. All right. You can change the alignment if you wanted. You can say text align center if you want to make it look a little bit different. I'm going to leave it like that for now, for myself. And now I'm going to add the hover effect. That means that when I hover over the card, dot card method hover, something's going to happen. And what's going to happen is that I'm going to change the box shadow, and I'm going to just copy paste this, copy paste, and change maybe the blur a little bit so that it's a little bit spread, a little bit more blur, and maybe a little bit more shadow, not too much, maybe 6 pixels, so that when I hover, I get an accent on the card. Let's see it. So let's reload. You can see it. Hopefully you can see this, that when I hover over, the shadow changes a little bit, kind of like my card is raising. You see it? So my card is like elevating up just a little bit. All right. I like it. I like it. I'm going to add a little bit of spread. Let me add maybe 4 pixels here and see what happens. Save it. Let's go back. Yeah, you see, when you add a little bit of spread left and right, you get a little bit of accent as well. All right, I like it. Let's leave it like that. So I have the hover. I have everything I need. Maybe right now the change is instant, and I want to make it so that there's a little bit of a delay. So I'm going to add a property called transition, and I'm going to make it 0.3 seconds. So it's going to take a little time for the effect to play, let's say. So when I reload here, I already saved it. You can see, nice. Nice, nice. I like it, I like it. And I could even, when I erase it, I could even change the size. So max width, kind of like make it, nah, I'm not gonna play around with that. All right, I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay. Now that I have my CSS and it's working, I can just take this card, which starts here and finishes here, copy it, paste it, and now I have 2 cards. Let me save this and go to my file, reload, and now I have 2 cards, you see? And I can select the cards, kind of like hover over them and see a little accent on the card that I'm hovering over. And I can have more. I can have another one if I wanted to. Sorry. So I could, again, paste another one and take a look. When I, save, reload, and I have another one. Right? It's not wide enough for my window is not wide enough, so I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Now I have the 3 side by side. I like it. I like the cards. Now I can just change the data in the cards, change the picture, change the name, position, etc. I'm going to leave it to you. Remember, you're doing your own page, your own topic. The only thing I'm going to style now, which I'm missing, is this banner right here, which is the title of the page. So I'm going to, the class is heading, so heading. And I'm going to start some CSS, and I'm going to say text align. I'm going to center the text. Okay. I'm going to maybe add some shadow, and maybe this shadow. Let's see. Copy. And paste the box shadow, the second box shadow. So save that, And let's go back and reload, and I like it. You see there's a box shadow. Maybe it needs a little space up and down. So I'm going to give it padding, right? So padding, and I'm going to say maybe all around 15 pixels all around. Let's see what that looks like. Save, reload, and I like it. You see it gave it some space, some padding. World-class players, and now I can hover and see my different cards. All right, we're done. Now that we're done, it's your turn. If you've been following along, you probably have something that looks like this already. Remember, you need to upload 2 files in the activity, the HTML file and the CSS file, and this should look different, right? You can experiment also with the background color of the body. You can experiment with whatever you like, okay? Make sure that you change the images for the different cards and the info for the different cards, right? All right, thank you very much.